Check, check, test, check, 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 test. So hot in this car. So hot. So hot. Hot car. Hot car. Hot car, Rick. Hot car.
Okay, all right. Okay, oi, babe. Oi. All right, we should be good.
Yep.
All right. Welcome to Take Your Shoes Off podcast. My name is Rick Glassman, and I believe I've already done an intro. But if not,
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah!
Rory, your red light's on, right?
Red light is a go.
All right. Well, normally, you can see me okay?
I can see you.
This is ridiculous.
We've got good eye contact here.
Rory, thanks for coming over, man.
Hey, it was literally nothing. It was literally this whole setup, piece of cake.
Last week was Brent. He came over and he climbed up the patio.
I saw. Does he have a broken ankle? What's going on there?
Yeah, so he hurt his foot stepping on fruit while exercising outside.
Not okay.
But the boot, he said he has a boot. His ankle still hurt, but I'm yelling. I feel like I'm yelling because I see you, but I could hear you fine.
Oh, you're not. I don't think you're yelling. Do you feel like you're yelling?
I feel like I'm projecting, yeah.
I just look down the street, see what we got going on here. Pretty day. It's a really nice day.
Yeah, I hope this comes out well because we were very limited with resources here.
I got gloves.
I see.
I've got a mask.
Tell me about that mask. Where'd you get it and why'd you get it?
I got this off Amazon. I got it when all this stuff happened. I bought it. Everything that I bought out of caution, I only bought it if I thought there would be further use for it after all of this.
Could you explain what that mask is to the people who are listening and not watching?
This is oh yes, right. So I'm wearing a pretty intense 3M filter mask. Should be good for almost any situation. Not all situations, but definitely a pandemic. I'm overdoing it. Everyone looking right there. You can tell that I'm overdoing it, but yeah, I love being careful. Love being safe.
Yeah.
This is my first time wearing the mask.
Yeah, you told me that you bought it a while ago, but you decided to use it for a bit.
Yeah, I felt like this was the time to use it.
Do you think you're going to keep it on the whole time, or are you comfortable taking it off?
It feels pretty good. I don't know.
Because it sounds fine.
Do I sound weird?
Could we hear what it sounds like with it off, and then...
Well, it's still got sort of a little bit of an echo if I pull it all the way.
If I could keep it on.
Feels good.
I actually might say that you're Christian Bale.
You could do that. You could just say I'm anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Doing an impression of a nasally Rory Scovel.
Rory,
yeah.
I think we're good to get into it.
Let's do it.
However, I don't think it's an adrenaline rush. Adrenaline rushes serve a purpose. Whatever I'm feeling right now is just a fucking train wreck. So,
over-adrenalized.
Yeah, maybe. I just need to ease into it. Perry, you good? Good, man. All right, man. Well, I got to give a shout out to Perry once again, who came over and helped out. And check out the Brother Show. We'll put a link in the description, and we'll know if I'll put a link in the description if the drone footage comes out because we didn't have time to watch it.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Rory.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Before we get into whatever we get into, I talked about you for a moment. I did Santino's podcast last week.
Nice.
And the reason I spoke with you...
The reason you spoke with me?
Yeah, the reason I spoke about you was because Santino's podcast is Whiskey Ginger, and they always drink whiskey, and I don't drink. And he said, if you want, why don't you get high? Yeah. And I said, yeah, I'll take a half an edible. And then when I get there, maybe I'll take another half. So by the end, I could get silly.
Yeah.
He recommended, nope, get high beforehand. I said, yeah, but I get very high.
He wanted you to get full on, full edible.
We both wanted me to get full on, full edible, but I
Yes.
knew that I would be annoying and insecure about being annoying.
I know. I relate all too well with what you just said.
Well, tell me how, because that's why I brought you up, kind of.
Well, I get high, and, if I get high and I do stand-up, I don't mind it. Because I don't care if I'm annoying.
Why?
Because it's a different social dynamic. Because there's an audience, and you're performing, and you sort of have this predetermined script of sorts. So you have a little bit of a map. But socially, it's I get a little more insecure because I'll still try to go to those funny places. Only now the setting is wrong.
Uh-huh.
And I think that I sound like a lunatic in general. But then two, I'm like, oh, I'm talking too much and I'm wildly annoying. My brain goes to that place. That's why I know what you mean.
Have you been conditioned if people told you that, or is that just something you figured out as you've gotten older?
I think a little bit of both. Oh,
Hold for sound?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think growing up being a class clown, I was certainly like balls to the wall, would do anything for a laugh or for attention. And you start to realize like, oh, you can't overdo it. And then people are like, shut the fuck up.
Do you remember when you realized that?
No. Nothing specific, but I know in middle school and high school for sure.
Oh, early.
People would say, they'd be like, my God, you're so fucking annoying. And it wouldn't emotionally affect me because I really thought I was being funny.
So you thought they were wrong?
I thought they were wrong, but I was like, oh, all right, I guess I need to cool it a little bit. We have a disease. It's hard for us to cool it.
How would you explain what that is? Because I understand.
I don't know if it's our families. I don't know if it's our DNA. I don't know what makes us want to do the job that we actually can do. We are good at it. But I don't know what is in our system to where we annoy people by going too far, or I don't know what that is. I really don't know what it is.
Well,
or where it comes from.
For example, Perry is still here off screen,
yes.
and because I'm thinking, well, we need him because I do want him here to
yes.
check the camera because I can't stuff. But how annoying is that? So let me interrupt real quick and say, hey, Perry, if you please go do your thing. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome. Obviously, of course, but if you could, just sorry.
Rick.
You what? Okay, but come on back whenever.
Rick has held this man here against his will, and he's now releasing him.
That's the brother show. We'll put a link in the description if the drone footage worked.
Having a good pod here.
Yeah, so do you believe that... let me not put that on you. Let me tell you my thoughts on it.
Yes.
Like many comedians, we fought for either attention or safety or something in a way where we developed a skill set to turn something negative or something that's completely missing into a positive, right?
Yes.
So that DNA is there. But then within that, there's a lot of subcategories as to why. And is it a distraction? Is it for the attention? Is it to be loved? Is it for somebody else not to be hurt, etc.? For me, I never knew how people were feeling. I never knew if they liked me, they didn't like me, they were happy, they were sad. Well, I guess happy. I knew when people were laughing.
Yes.
And laughing was something that was not a lie. Nobody could lie to me about it.
Exactly, yeah.
So even if someone was mad at me and I'm in trouble or I want to be friends with somebody, a laugh was validation that is not sustainable logically.
It's true.
But we'll do anything for it.
Right.
I haven't left my house more than 7 times in 2 months.
Yes.
But for this bit, I'm outside with wires. I'm going to have to clean everything for so long.
Yes.
Because why? This isn't even necessarily going to get a laugh. It's just engaging.
I think it will get some laughs, and I think it'll get a lot of I think it'll get some laughs, and I think it'll get a lot of respect because this took a lot.
A lot of respect?
I think so.
Okay. Leave some comments. Let me know if there's a lot of respect here.
I don't think it'll be so bad to clean up. I mean, I unplug the mic and the headphones, and you just kind of reel those up.
Right, but I have to wipe every inch of the wire along the way.
I would leave it all on your porch I would leave it on your porch, and then I would wipe it all out there and leave it outside for a second.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
I love that that's what we're...
I know, I was just thinking
the
that.
podcast is like, how to disinfect from doing the podcast.
While we're talking about we'll do anything for a laugh, I'm making sure to have the most mundane conversation with you in the most difficult environment where I want to capitalize.
Yes, yeah.
So the weed thing, it made me think of you because you... Thomas Dale and I did a show in Alaska.
Oh, yes.
And it was Anchorage University, and we got a little stonied beforehand.
Yes.
And you told me that you never let the audience know you're high.
Yes.
But what I took from that is you never use it as an excuse.
Yes.
Because you don't care if they know you're high, right?
If they're like, well, this guy seems like he's high, it's like, well, anyone who seems like they're high is probably high. But you're right. I never want to be like, oh, this isn't going well. Well, forgive me, I'm high. Because if I'm the audience, I would be like, well, then you shouldn't be
right.
High, you know. Same if you've had too many drinks. If you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that joke twice. I'm drunk. It's like, well, be slightly professional.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
So that stuck with me. There are pieces of advice I've gotten in my life, and that is not anywhere near the most important, but it stuck with me so strong.
Yeah.
Where it just as much as like bring a gift to a party and shake hands and make eye contact.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I did Santino's podcast, I was thinking to myself, oh, I can't use this as an excuse. So if I'm going to be belligerent, that's my choice before I got high, and I was in a little bit of a.
I think it's a little different with a podcast, though. I think if you're on stage and people have paid money, I mean, in this case, no one paid. It was like an orientation for students or something. In our case, we were given a free pass, but
we were paid.
We got paid, but I think I think for a podcast, I think there's some forgiveness there.
It went great.
Yeah.
People, I told my girlfriend after, because Andrew sent me a clip of it because I did some. I had my animated goblin come in.
Yeah.
This guy that's right there.
Yeah.
You could shoo him off your window. Yeah. And I saw it, and I watched a few seconds, and I got cold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is a few stoned episodes. One of my favorite ones is with Adam Ray, 2.0. We got so high, but before I posted it, and my producer George convinced me, this was what I've been spending the last 5 years trying to eliminate. This embarrassing character that I've been.
Yes.
And now I'm putting it out on display for applause again. It just feels like I'm going backwards. Right. But being high is fun. Anyway, could you give any examples of your persona high and not high? I can't tell. You said it's obvious. I can't tell with you.
Oh, really?
You have a performer and you have a not a performer. And performer, I'll never know if it's high or not.
I think maybe the only reason that is because I started performing high pretty early on. And so because of that, that's just kind of the space I get into when I get on stage is going to be, like, if I'm high, I know that space is different for me, but my output might still be similar. I might still be my delivery, my timing, all those things might be similar whether I'm sober or high, to a certain degree.
So you've been conditioned that way. Is that?
I think so. I think there's an element of maybe being conditioned that way because of repetition. Being high so many times.
Does that benefit you? Is that no different? It's not a conscious thing. It's just now is your joke writing also stoner joke writing even if you're sober?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever. I've always wanted the jokes to fall into miscellaneous and be whatever they are, and whatever the setup makes sense with whatever punchline. I never try to write it or fit it into a mold of who I think I am. I think I always try to adjust to the joke to give myself a little bit more entertainment, and then it doesn't become so stale to me. Does that make sense?
No. I mean, I can't picture it. Could you say that differently? Like, because for me, even not even being stoned aside, high entirely or never getting high, I have a difficult time manufacturing how to deliver a joke if it's different than the mood that I'm in that moment.
Yes.
Is that touching on what you're talking about, that you seem to be able to control?
Well, you're talking about manufacturing it. I mean, if you've already got it. For instance, if I go on stage, I might have the dumbest, silliest, just stupidest joke ever. And then right after it, I might get into a very serious political rant. And so because of that, I don't try to make those two things exist in the same tone. I just try to adjust. I try to adjust to meet the joke instead of the joke meeting me.
Is there something to you showing a spectrum of your personality and your character by being silly, penis, poop, balls, and then fuck Trump or whatever the political thing might be?
Right.
Or, to hell with Trump, depending on where your political views are. But so does that help you in like if I were to have done Andrew's podcast once before and it was more conversational,
yes.
And then the second time I come in, I would be like, I'm so comfortable being stoned out of my ass because I feel like people know that's not all I am, and that's an insecurity of mine.
Yes.
So catering multiple styles within a singular set, does that offer you a confidence in being dynamic?
I think so. I think it gives me a confidence that I personally don't find what I'm doing to be stale. I think when I have jokes.
What do you mean stale? Because what if you're doing the same stuff for 2 years? Wouldn't it be stale?
Yes. So that's what I mean. Me having that dynamic, for me personally, gives those jokes a longer shelf life. I'm more interested in those jokes longer, personally, because of that. An audience might not feel that way.
Because of that, what is that? I'm sorry.
The dynamic,
gotcha.
the varying tones of meeting the joke.
So being able to be more dynamic within a set gives those individual jokes a longer shelf life.
Yes. For instance, maybe this explains it better, but
make sure that red light is on the camera, would you?
All good. Like if I wrote a joke and I was like, oh, that's how I'm going to say the joke, and I did that at an open mic and it got laughs, and I just left it like that forever, and I said, well, that's how it's written. That's how I'm going to say it, and that's where the responses will be. That's fine and good, but for me personally, I get very bored with that very quickly. So if I can try to figure out a different dynamic to the joke and where it comes from, then maybe I can say it differently every time I do it. And then I have more interest in it, and I get more excited by it. When I'm about to shoot a special, sadly, that is when I am the most bored with my act, because I've been trying to hammer this specific thing for so long that by the time we shoot it, I'm so over it.
Do you think that removing your feelings aside, the product is worth that consistently doing the same thing to hit those beats?
Yes, I think so. Because I think in the future, let's say a year, 6 months, a year later.
Could we do a year?
Let's do a year. Let's leave it as a year. Like a year later, when people actually see it, having hit those beats in such a disciplined way is going to be the main thing that translates to the audience watching at home, because they were not in the room, so they can't feel the energy that crowd that night felt. So the crowd that watched the taping, they got a totally different perspective than the people that watched it in their living room. But if you can hit those beats in a disciplined way, that might be the one element that translates. Oh, you can come through. You can come through.
You can go through. And feel free to plug your Instagram into the camera if you like.
Thank you. No, you're fine. Thank you.
Okay, so you brought up something that I like very much, which is it's not hard. It's not possible to capture the energy in a room for a taping. Any special that you see, and I've watched specials that I've gone to the taping, they're relatively different shows.
That's exactly right.
So within that, your job, the comedian's job, is to entertain the audience at home when it's a taping.
I was like kind of checking down the street, you know what I mean?
Sure. Does everything look clean?
Looks good.
When you first got here, there was a person that was a little worrisome to you.
Yeah, there was a guy standing in the middle of the street flicking us off and flicking the cars off that could easily end his life. I mean, that guy had an amazing amount of trust that those people driving those cars would respect his life.
Do you trust him? Do you trust him more with your safety if he's doing all of these crazy, clearly not in his right mind things? However, he was wearing a mask.
He did have a mask on, and it was.
Oh, did he? 'Cause I couldn't see.
He had a mask on, but he eventually pulled it down.
Something you'll never do.
Something I never. I was blown away by the fact that he even had a mask. I mean, imagine having a mask while standing in the street.
Right, because that's like putting on a seatbelt and then finishing the analogy.
Yes. He was just standing in the street like, all these cars can just hit me, but I won't get this virus.
So you had mentioned that the different show. So you're performing for the people at home, and I agree with that. And there's also a certain direction that you need to do to make sure that translates. And for me,
Yes.
I don't think comedians use reaction shots enough. Not just reaction shots of laughing, but like showing the energy in the room to help it put the person watching the TV there.
Yeah, I think I think it also happens to do with a big part of that. I think is choosing the venue you're going to shoot it in, and the angles. Because to me, while I love seeing somebody perform at Madison Square Garden, I think it's cool as shit, and I'm certain I will never know what that feels like unless I somehow get to open for somebody. I'll never know what that's like, and I'm sure it's very
like
fun.
for the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks are like, come sing the national anthem.
Yeah, you just do.
Yeah.
Oh, can you? Whose birthday? I couldn't think of anything. What a missed opportunity.
What's everyone's job? But yeah, when you shoot it in like an intimate space, it's like you have a better chance of making that audience a year later feel like maybe I am there. Maybe this is intimate. So because I'm watching in my living room, to me the product should feel intimate. And if the product feels like it's Madison Square Garden, which is fine and good, those are also great specials. It's hard for me as an audience. I don't feel like I'm there because it's so wildly out of place.
Well, it's the same with concerts versus, intimate live shows. It's the performer, what they're doing, and the direction of it. Like when Kevin Hart comes out with flames everywhere, you don't need to feel like it's in your living room.
Exactly.
But if you're going to have a big venue, you need to have a big production, and it can't. And with comedians, it's just us.
Yes.
Usually.
Yes.
But what about that intangible of? Sure, you're hitting the beats, but since you're bored, doesn't the performance suffer for you when you're not also, as I refer to it, as in the audience with them?
Yes, and that's why it's to me a true testament of the craft is figuring out how to get yourself excited, how to psych yourself out. I think as live performers, we probably can relate a little bit to Michael Jordan's need to concoct villainous stories to get him so jacked up to play a game.
Oh, you're not going to pass me at the Comedy Store?
Yeah.
Watch this.
It's true, though.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, oh, I got to do that? Oh, you think that person's funnier? I'll show you. Now, there are comics that they get way out of hand with it, and no one is friends with them. But the comics who are somewhat level-headed about it, you realize like, there are mechanisms you can do to get yourself kind of jacked up to really have a good show. Think about when there's industry in the crowd, and it. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting because it's like, well, while I like performing anyways, it's like if there's someone in the crowd. It's almost like, well, if there's someone in the crowd that can make a difference, or not make a difference, but
make a difference is fair.
Lead to a meeting or an audition, or
it's an audition, not just a show.
Exactly, and I like that pressure.
Yeah.
I like that some people would fold under that pressure. I have folded under that pressure, but I like that.
When
pressure.
have you folded under it?
I feel like when I moved out here to LA, I was so nervous.
So it wasn't the show itself, but it was your experience.
Yes, yeah. And I think I was just so nervous about what the expectation is. And it's so funny how the more you do this job, the more you realize there's not any expectations. We don't have a job that you can somewhat quantify. You can look at someone and go, yeah, I don't think that's funny. I think that's funny. And you can't even quantify it because the person sitting next to you
right.
might say, oh, I think that guy's a genius. Like, they might think it's absolutely genius.
At a certain point, it is our responsibility to not just perform, not speaking for you, but there was a part of me for a while where after every show, I'd have 4 people who were diehard fans who said, I got it, because they and I knew that 98% of the audience didn't get it.
Yes.
And I took that as a win.
Yes.
But the truth is, it's not. It's not.
Right.
They just were okay with what I was doing, so they liked what I was doing.
Right, yeah.
But I don't buy into comedy as subjective. I think that taste is subjective. But just like any musician who's been performing for at least a decade successfully will tell you that this country artist, this hip hop artist, this whatever artist, even if they don't like that music, they're good at what they do.
Yes.
And when somebody doesn't laugh, it doesn't mean it's not funny.
Yes.
And there's something about an industry crowd that I love because I am anticipating no laughs.
Right, yeah.
So it's like that's the most competitive I've ever been. That's when it's that,
Right.
I don't need you to laugh. If I know it's funny, it's funny.
Right.
Does that connect to you at all? Is that fuck you mentality?
You can come through. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit distracted with this shit. How are you feeling being on the street right now? For people,
I love it.
People that are listening, I didn't really set it up.
I mean, this is bizarre. This is, you had Brent on the balcony. You're mixing it up. We're doing things differently.
Yeah, we have Rory on the street in his car, running some wires down.
We got some wires. We have a camera set up. This is an intense setup to pull this off.
And when I'm done, I'm going to make sure everything is clean. And with that, let me let you know, Rory, that cleanliness is very important to me. If it weren't for cleanliness, I don't know how I'd sleep at night. And I'm not just talking about my wires and hands. I'm also talking about, that's right, my asshole. We'll be right back with a word from our sponsors. Hi, Ma. I'm doing my bidet commercial for the podcast, and I wanted to know if you had any thoughts on helping me sell these things. Do you have any personal experience with a bidet that you think would be a good selling point?
It sure does make you feel good. I mean,
Okay.
I remember.
All right. Buttholes have been mistreated for a very long time, and believe me, from when I was single, I know. Hello Tushy cleans your butt with a fresh stream of water for just $79. It attaches to your existing toilet, requires no additional plumbing or electricity, and cuts toilet paper by roughly 80%. Every Hello Tushy comes with a risk-free 60-day guarantee and a 12-month warranty.
The only thing I could think is, save on toilet paper, save on time, and save 10%.
Save on toilet paper, save on time, and save 10%. That's Hello Tushy, TUSHY.com/TYSO. Good?
What?
No, I was doing it. I was just telling people. Again, that's Hello Tushy, TUSHY.com/TYSO for 10% off. HelloTushy.com/TYSO to get 10% off. Buy these fucking things. I need to finally make some fucking money, and this is a good product. I genuinely use it. Buy them. Tag me on @ShoesOffPod on Instagram with you using it to clean your asshole, and I'll repost it.
And we're back. Oh boy, I'll tell you what, we learned a lot there. We learned a lot about cleanliness and asshole cleanliness. I mean, the stuff they make these days, it's truly astonishing. Rick, that's an incredible product that you're pushing there. Yeah.
Again, that's Hello Tushy, TUSHY.com/TYSO. Rory, what was your favorite part of that commercial that we just showed?
It's got to be the usability. It's got to be the durability. It's got to be the warranty. Anything with a warranty, I will buy it.
How long was the warranty for that mask?
18 years.
Oh, this is fun, man. 18
long, hard years.
Rory, for people that are listening to this podcast that don't know who you are, you can't describe comedians. You can't ask a comedian, how would you describe your comedy? Tell me if you disagree and I'll have you describe it, but I think that's a ridiculous question.
It is difficult because what they're saying is, who are you similar to? And I get it. I get that. But it isn't like when somebody goes, what kind of music does your band play? You can kind of answer that. You can go, oh, rock, we play rock and roll.
Right, there's a genre.
But ours, it's just not really like that. And so your expectation is you have to say who you're similar to.
Right.
And that gap of who you think you're similar to is still gigantic.
So I would love if you have anything. Is there any clips of you that you would feel comfortable with me putting up? And if not, could I ask you to do 30 seconds to the camera?
I'm comfortable with all clips.
All right.
All clips.
So check this out. Ching 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 cha.
Snap! Now let me ask you, Rick, what was your favorite joke in there? What was your favorite part of that video?
First of all, hilarious. You're very funny, and I love that. I'd never seen that before. Durability.
Yes. Yes.
The
Warranty.
usability, and yeah, I like that joke. That even if you're guaranteed to laugh.
Yes.
For 18 months.
Yes.
And if not, then that's a bummer, man.
Then they don't get it. They just don't get it.
Now, do you have any stuff that that isn't out yet that we could get a sneak preview of that you would mind? And sometimes it's awkward to not have an audience, so we'll put in a track for you.
I don't know if I have anything. I haven't performed in 2 months. My brain is I don't even know where I feel like I don't even remember how some jokes, what they are or how they even
love it. What a hilarious premise. All right, so
even start.
What I'm going to ask for you is lower the mask and talk about how jokes they're secular. Do they have a start? Do they have an end? Something within that. I think that's actually really cool. Yeah.
Wait, what about jokes?
No, it's a camera.
Oh, what am I saying?
I don't know. I was just going to have you do a bit.
Oh.
Lower the mask, though, just for this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the street, actor, comedian, Rory Scovel.
Hey, how we doing out there, everybody? I gotta say, this virus is something else. And what I mean to say is it's not like other things. It's really something else. I sit in my house. I see people walking by. I'm turning into my grandparents. I'm jumping up. Who's that walking by? What are they up to? What do they got going on? And hey, where's your mask? I'll yell that out.
Yell it!
Yeah, I'll wonder where their mask is. I've never been more aware of the garbage schedule, and I've never actually. There was one day my wife took the garbage cans out to the street. I said, "Why do you get to have all the fun?"
Oh, Rory Scovel, everybody.
Anyways, that's my new hour. It comes out.
Good stuff, dude. Hey,
Oh.
There's something rewarding about getting a laugh, even when you know it's not real.
It's like the yin and yang of the whole thing. It's like the fuel to it.
Uh-huh.
You've probably done some of these streaming shows during this. You haven't done any?
No.
It's a good call. I did one. I love Hot Tub, so I did Hot Tub, and I was sure to do a bit. I was sure to do something that did not rely on a crowd's reaction in the space. What?
Light on?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I did a bit that did not require the beat of a crowd because there's no crowd.
Sure.
I mean, there is watching, but you know what I mean. You can't hear them. But that's painful. It's painful to perform into a vacuum.
Yeah.
Because even if, let's say, 100 people were streaming it, and 100 people said you were hilarious, you're still like, all right, I didn't feel.
Yeah.
Your compliment is greatly appreciated, but I can't feel it because I don't know what happened. I was just in a blank room.
There's a big difference. There is one of the big differences between a musician and a comedian, where a musician, you could play in your living room fine because you're escaping into your music And you're performing,
Yeah.
yes, but you don't need. Now, I'm sure it's better, and you could argue another side of this, but relatively speaking, you don't need that crowd. Where with a comedian, even that you're the only one talking in a respectful room, at least.
Yes.
It is a conversation, and people have used that term conversation. The best way I could explain that is the laughter back. It's not necessarily validation. It's an exchange of understanding, acceptance, and energy, and
Yes.
also no laughter back is also part of it. If there's silence, that awkward, that
It's
tension,
also
that
part of the
energy,
communication.
It's part of the communication. It's like having a conversation with somebody, and instead of them nodding their head
Yeah.
yes, they're going no.
Right.
You're still having
You're
that.
getting information.
That's what's really tough for me, because I have tried a few times to do a solo podcast.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially if I'm high, I'm feeling funny and I could go a little bit. But not having somebody there, like D'Elia, I feel is the best. I don't know if you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
His podcast is the best version of somebody doing a solo podcast.
Yes.
And I'm willing to bet that if he didn't have his producers there, somebody from the other end of the camera, maybe he could. He's an anomaly with that stuff sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
But not having that other person there, he's still performing, not to the camera,
To them.
to
Yeah.
them or to him.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's some people that are just suited for it. I mean, I think Bill Burr has a great podcast that he's just someone who can start to go, and D'Elia's like that too. And there's others, but they're wired to just go and talk.
Yeah, you know what? You're
and
right.
They sort
Bill
of
does it.
entertain themselves, in a way where, and I love it. I'm jealous of it. That confidence of knowing in that particular setting of doing a podcast, knowing that, oh, what I'm saying is interesting and it is funny, and I'm just going to keep going. I could do that on stage even if the crowd isn't laughing, but to do it in a podcast setting, if I were by myself, I don't know if I have that confidence. I'd like to believe that over time maybe I could develop it, but my guess, if I had to bet money, is I just don't have whatever that thing is.
Yeah, it's really tough because it's...
I'm gonna remask.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll be right back with a word from Marshall Rug Gallery.
I'm Matt Ween from Marshall Carpet and Rug Gallery. Our family has been serving the community for 3 generations. And in 55 years, we, like you, have never experienced anything this challenging. We all owe a debt of gratitude to our first responders, doctors, and medical workers for all they continue to do. So to help and thank the community that's been supporting us during this time, we are donating meals from our local restaurants to our first responders and hospitals. Please stay safe and stay well. At Marshall Carpet and Rug Gallery, we've got you covered.
And we're back, folks. That was a fantastic commercial about Rick's dad's rug store doing a version of a Meals on Wheels, going to restaurants, grabbing food, taking that food to people in their homes who are maybe unable to get out of the restaurants.
I think it's more to workers.
To
healthcare people.
That's right. Yeah, to healthcare people who are in need of food that can't stop what they're doing, obviously, to go out and get it.
Now, you know it's
Very
interesting.
admirable. I appreciate that.
So not only does everybody need food, something people don't really think about and we take for granted is everybody also needs flooring. Now, we're not just talking about fine quality handcrafted New Zealand wood, hand knot area rugs, carpet, tile, linoleum. It doesn't matter if you're looking to have LeBron's house, which, by the way, my dad did, or you're just like a one-bedroom apartment like me. We have been in business for the past, what do they say? What about when people tell you that they've been in business for a combined... There's a dry cleaners in Burbank that says they've been in business for a combined 180 years, but they've just tallied up all the people who have worked there.
That's right.
You can't do that.
Combined 180 years. I don't even know that dry cleaning... When did dry cleaning start? The 70s?
No, 39. It was in response to the Great Depression and people looking for other jobs. And laundromats, incidentally, didn't exist yet, and enough people weren't able to do the laundries. And when soldiers were coming home from war with blood on their uniform... they needed people.
They needed to get those clean before the next war.
And it's not just important to get your clothes clean. It's also important to get your ass clean. So again, that's hellotushy.com/TYSO, and make sure you pick up for 10% a bidet. Now, I'm not just pushing a product. Hell, I use it myself, and it's fantastic.
That was very natural. I like that.
I do use the product, but I do need people to buy it because then they will advertise more. It's a whole
I get it.
it's a
I
whole
get it.
scheme that I'm absolutely in love with.
Yes, I appreciate it. That's how the world works. I bought a bidet. I installed it myself, and I'm incredibly proud of that effort that I made to install a bidet in our bathroom. I am not good at anything like that.
Did it take you a full bidet to install, or
It took a whole bidet, and I couldn't even believe it because I had other stuff to do that bidet.
that's like somebody who has a tick and find ways of excuse me. When I was younger, I had a lot of them, and one of them was I would skip.
Yeah.
I would have to do a hop, and I was embarrassed, and I didn't want people to know about it, so I would hold it down as long as I can, and then I would just end the conversation. And my trick was, all right, man, I'll see you guys later. And then I would kind of hop and skip out of there and like jog away.
Yeah.
But the only reason was to get that skip. So like, if you need,
That was just a tick you needed to do it?
I had a lot of them. I feel it's closest to a Tourette, but I can't diagnose myself with that. I do have OCD, and as a kid, I had extreme debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder, and there were certain things I needed to do, but some of them were more rituals, and some of them were like I would have to like smile, and I used to look down a lot. So when I was playing basketball, I made it as if I were making sure my laces were undone. So sometimes even like to myself, I would be, oh, they're fine. Like in case someone was watching, I would have a reason.
Good for you to be that self-aware, though. How can I hide it?
I think that's a big problem where a lot of my comedy came from, was finding distractions, even if it was annoying. Bits, because otherwise I'm an alien or something.
How do you feel now? Do you feel like you've grown out of a lot of those? Have you developed new ones? What is it now?
Well, this came into my consciousness a few years ago.
Yeah.
So since then, I've on one hand, I've gotten a lot better, but on the other hand, I thought I was so self-aware, and I was just so concentrated on this small section, I didn't see how other people were receiving me.
Yeah.
So within that, I don't want to get too into it, and I've said that on my podcast before because I have talked about it, but the short version is I found out some stuff, I became more self-aware, and for a year I fell into this huge depression because I realized I'm not this charming, hilarious person that I always thought I was, necessarily, because I'm seeing other people don't feel about me the way that I do.
Right.
So then I try to control that, and I realize that's not possible either.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gotten back into this thing that I used to be, which is I'm just going to find my people, and we'll reach an equilibrium when we do.
Yeah, that's great.
But I'm more aware that there's a line there.
Yeah.
And the problem for that first year, and I still suffer with it, is I used to go over that line, and that was fun, and a lot of times it was rewarded and good.
Yeah.
But sometimes it wasn't. So it was hard to calculate when it's okay. Incidentally, I talked about on Santino's podcast, because I was high and feeling insecure. I feel like my whole life I never had feeling on my hand, and I never felt pain on it. And no, that's not how the analogy is. Here's what the analogy was. I never had a stove. No, what it was is it feels like now I don't have now I don't have feeling on my palm, but I know that I need to keep it safe.
Yeah.
And certain bits, when I go too far, it's like putting my hand on a stove, but I don't know if it's on or not. And if it's not on, this is great. And look, I have better balance and things are working out for me. So a lot of times now, just like I'm going to ask you to recheck to make sure that camera's going, I have to check in with, am I burning myself? Am I being too much?
Yeah.
The problem with that is people don't know consciously, and if they do, they aren't necessarily comfortable saying it.
Right.
So I have to ask, and then it messes up the flow, and it's weird. It's like when you're with a girl and you're giving her the business, you're fucking her and making her come and sticking in her ass and stuff. But then you say, "Is this okay?" Even if it was okay, it's like it's done now.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting better at that, but it's a new world I've been exploring.
Right. Yeah.
Of just trusting my instincts.
Yeah.
What were we just talking about?
I like that though. I feel like that's great. That's growth. That's change. It's evolution.
Yeah.
It's critical.
There's less freedom to it, and which incidentally, comparatively, gives more freedom to performing.
Yes.
Where like Rick, listen, like you said, when you're on stage, it's different.
Yes.
Like you're performing. And back to what we were talking about before, that's where it's difficult because we grew up being validated that performing, but also just be a person.
Yeah.
This podcast has helped me with that because I've been having longer conversations with you and I. We've had some conversations, but most of our experience together has been either at a club or literally performing together.
Or at the last remaining Blockbuster Video
Yes.
in Alaska.
That was exciting to see, huh? But, yeah, tell me about you, because you seem to have, I don't know if it's because you're a father, even though that's relatively new, but you have a family vibe to you, but that you've always had, where you're, like I said, I can't tell if you're high or not, your weirdness and alternative comedy descriptor, there's something about it that is very professional, and Steve Martin is a goofball who clearly knows how to turn it off.
Yes.
Not saying that you're like Steve Martin for better or worse, but there's something stoic about, even when you're being weird, where it's like he is very in control of what that is. Do you feel that you are? Could you relate to that if you never had it and then you did get it?
You know, for a while, I thought if I turned it off, I would lose it, and I do think that I'm gonna switch this up real fast. So I think, I think for a while I thought that if I turned it off, that maybe it would go away. That maybe being funny was this gas that you had to keep pressing and you had to keep pushing. And I think when I would see other people who were effortlessly funny, which strangely, and I bet you can relate to this, the people in our lives who have been effortlessly funny 100% unanimously always are like, I could never do what you do. And you almost don't want to tell them that they could, because they would just take your job so quickly.
Because they're in control?
Yes, but also because they are just talking so zen and free, and you're like, oh my God, you're hilarious, and you're literally just being yourself. You're not even trying to make... It's like meeting a Jedi comedian, but they don't become comedians.
I like how you validated with comedian as if I thought you just meant an actual Jedi.
I for a second I thought I did, but it's almost like they're so naturally funny that they never wired into their brain this like need to get a laugh or be funny, that they almost don't even know that they're so funny. But anyways, I think over time I've learned and accepted that I am not just that person. I'm not just the person on stage, and I'm not just the person off stage with comedians, and I'm not just the person with my family. I think I'm coming to learn that, and I haven't decided yet if I love or hate this. This is sort of my newest revelation about myself.
Do you want me to edit out that you said revolution, or could we keep it in to show people?
Let people know I make mistakes. I am a human being.
For
all they know, they can't see me.
I'm going to bleep the one time you said it and the 2 times now I'm saying and so it maybe looks like you said something racist. Say not that there's anything wrong with that, and then you can continue.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I think my most recent revelation was that I think a lot of times I am the person that other people kind of bring out of me.
Could you say that differently?
Well, I think it has to do a little bit with what I was saying about jokes. For instance, if you and I are sitting and talking for 20 minutes, you might, just because of who you are and how you are, you might pull out a different version of me that maybe sometimes I've never even met before, in just how I respond and what the pace is and what the rhythm is and what the energy is. And then if I were to sit down with, a family member, an uncle or something.
An uncle.
That might be a different person.
Right.
I might be a different person with them. And there's a lot of times I thought in my life that I maybe just was like fake with people. Like, oh, that's not who I am. And I would readily know, like, as I was talking to someone, like, oh, I feel like that's not actually who I am. But all I'm learning is that there are people that bring a version out of me that I don't like. And then there are people that bring out a version of me that I really do like or I really love. Yeah. And I think it speaks more to who those people are, because maybe my own insecurity is getting whoever's inside of me out. It speaks to them that they get that out of me, something I don't even know how to do. Does that? I don't know if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes so much sense. I have a few things that yes, it makes perfect sense, and I love that, and I've never actually thought of it that way. I don't think it's fully that. I'm not saying you're saying otherwise, but somebody bringing something out of me it's not their responsibility to not do that if it's a negative.
Sure, yeah.
But there is a truth to the fact that people are more compatible than others, and there's nothing wrong with this person, but we're on a frequency that not only does it not match, they don't complement each other, that it's maybe best to, at least in this moment.
Yeah.
But with enough tools, it could be otherwise.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do think that you said that, I versus your uncle could bring out different people in you.
Yeah.
Semantics, but I don't believe it's a different person. I believe it's just a different part.
Yes.
And it's not fake if it's a true part of you.
Right.
The opposite end of the spectrum would be when people are manufacturing a personality that they think someone may like, or be something they're not. And that is, not only is that not necessarily a conscious thing, but that is a hard thing to recognize.
Yes.
But if you're in touch, I always check in with, whenever I'm doing something, I don't always, but when I can, I try to check in with my intention. Podcasting is tough sometimes because there's a very high school element to this.
Yeah.
Do you relate to this at all with wanting to get certain podcast guests on and certain people that were friends of yours that become successful podcast people? There becomes this popularity vibe that I'm probably projecting some of it, but also a lot of it exists.
Sure.
You connect with that, yeah?
I understand it. Yeah. I think I even though I've been doing my podcast with Daniel for
Pen Pals
for over a year now, I don't know that I fully ever have understood podcasts.
Podcast culture or the product itself?
I think a little bit of both. Like the culture, I definitely feel further away from. That I don't totally get it. I am intrigued by it, and I really like it, but I don't know that I totally get it. But what I do like about it is that it does give us entertainers this other outlet to show this other version of ourselves that I think can then bring people to the product that we really like giving away,
which is stand-up.
But also I think it's given a lot of stand-ups the opportunity to realize they actually like this more.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I think it's great. I think it's almost just this other version of entertainment that has that intimacy that we were talking about.
But what I was thinking specifically, this idea of like, I have friends that I've reached out to guest on my podcast that I think nothing of other than I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Yes.
And sometimes they either don't write back or I can't right now. And then I get like, oh, this high school feeling of, listen, if I ask somebody to do something and they don't want to do it, I have no problem with it. But people don't tell you, I don't want to, I don't have time, I'm only doing, I don't care if you said I'm only doing podcasts of a certain caliber so I don't get watered down. That's fine.
You would at least know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of when I was a kid and I would ask, I've said this before, but I used to call my buddy David Price. Shout out to David Price. We're very good, well, not very good friends, but we're friends now. And I like him very, very much. We don't live in the same state. But when I was in like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I always wanted to be friends with David.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to him. I mean, we're all kids, but I called him one year almost every week for an entire school year. And every single time he had homework or he was grounded, or I never realized he doesn't want to.
Yes.
I know sometimes I had when he would blame it on his mom, and my mom was willing, I had my mom talk to his mom, which means that he had to go and say, Mom, will you lie to Rick's mom? And and again, he did nothing wrong. That was on me for not recognizing it.
Yeah.
He didn't want to play over. I would wrestle with kids, and I was too aggressive, and I was obnoxious, and I get it.
Yeah.
But there's this thing of, and I get this way when I was single, going in for a first kiss with a girl.
Yeah.
I would be terrified that even if she kissed me back, I would think she was just being nice. I'll never, just tell me you're not interested, man.
Yeah.
So I'm getting this way a little bit with podcast stuff where now I don't want to ask people who are, and I do because I have to, but that's what I meant. I have to check in with my intention. Rick, you want to have there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah.
But I haven't had this feeling that I'm feeling with podcasts since pre-high school.
Yeah.
And it's an odd, interesting, I can't project onto others, but I have to be able to deduce patterns.
Yeah, I get that. Our podcast, we don't really have guests,
Right.
So I haven't had to totally feel that, but I can easily understand that. I think I would find myself in that same emotional space for sure.
It feels bad.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of concocted rejection mixed with a little bit of validated rejection.
But the rejection is a very niche rejection.
Yes.
It's a lying rejection.
But it's also it's a lying rejection, and sometimes that is the case. And then you have to mix it with people who really are like, oh yeah, I can't right now.
That's
and then you go, oh, they're also rejecting me, and it's like, oh, but that's like a false negative.
That's what I was talking about before. It's tough to know what people are feeling because people don't even know what they're feeling often. Laughter, we know. You can't.
Yeah.
Tell me if you disagree with this, but a fake laugh is easy to tell.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just you can't lie. So yeah, there's something about not trusting people's intentions, which make it very hard for me to lie. I don't think that's I don't think that's a morality thing. It's not, well, do unto others. That's just the way I'm wired.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So when I ask David every year to come over and he's always can, it's like, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
How do you also, I should have talked about it earlier, and your show Robbie.
Yeah.
I want to get into that and how cool it is to have an idea and then to get the opportunity to sell a script.
Yeah.
And then to have it actually be made. Could you talk about that for a second? Well, yeah. Give a descriptive of Robbie first so we know what we're getting into.
So Robbie is a comedy that's now available on Comedy Central's YouTube channel.
And I'll also put I'll be putting a link in the description.
Yeah, it's all 8 episodes are up there. But yeah, I play Robbie, a failed church league basketball coach who's the manager of an ice cream place, and he wants to be the high school basketball coach, which his father was, and his father was a 2-time state champion, now retiring. And my character thinks that he should just get to be the coach, almost like royalty is handed down. And on the day of my big interview, I find out that I have a 10-year-old mixed race son.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
with Sashir Zameda, and it's essentially, it's set in the South, a fake town, Carter, Georgia, in the Southeast, and we really wanted to do a show that was set. If you go pitch a show that's set in the South, you will be shocked at the pushback you get.
Why?
I don't know what it is. I think people think there is a stereotype cliche of who Southerners are and what the South is like.
Is that because of the production in the South, or you mean the tone of the show taking place there?
Well, I just mean if you go pitch an idea of a story that takes place in the South, I think people hear that and they're like, how will anyone relate to it? It's such another world there.
Right.
And you almost want to be like, it's not another world at all. It's so identical to everywhere else. But because of the history of racism and slavery, and I totally...
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
With slavery... You can't follow slavery. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And if you disagree, I urge you to check out Tushy.com. That's hello Tushy /TYSO. Buy a product and we'll know that you think there's a problem with racism.
Yeah. But I think because of that history, which no one would deny, I think people are like, oh, but that's what that place is. And it's like, no, it evolved and changed and grew.
Did you get that note? They said that to you?
No, I just know from other friends who have also, when I've talked about doing a show in the South, one compliment we've gotten from people, and I'm so happy to have gotten it because it was one of our targets, was I really wanted to just show the South in not the stereotypical cliche way. I just wanted to show it the way that I believe it is, and how I grew up, and not punch down. It's so easy to punch down at the idea of like a redneck or something like that. It's easy to do that. And I didn't want to do that with this show, and people noticed that. And they were
Where
like,
are you from?
I grew up in South Carolina. So people noticed that, and they said, hey, I appreciate it because a lot of shows do that, or a lot of shows play Southerners with this super twangy accent.
You've gotten people from the South who messaged you that they appreciate that you didn't punch down? That's specific of an...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so grateful to hear that because that literally is something we, as the creators of the show, we said early on. We were like, I don't want the usual jokes. I don't want to punch down. I just want it to be set in the South. That's just where we are, and it's this guy's life, and I want that because that's where I grew up. That's where I invented this character. That's where this character would be, unless the show was fish out of water. And I thought about doing something like that too, but I was like, you know what? I want people to see. I mean, even specifically with a lot of the shots, and our cinematographer Carl Hurst.
Shout out to Carl Hurst, by the way.
Carl Hurst, big time. I said to him, I was like, when people see the shots, I want them to feel that southern breeze that is here. I want the trees to pop. I want people to see the neighborhoods and go.
Were you directing?
No. I wasn't. But it was just something I said. I was like, I really want the look to people to see like, oh, this is beautiful. And be like, yeah, the South is really beautiful. It's a really beautiful part of the country. But as soon as you say the South, all anyone can think is racism. And so I wanted to make a show that didn't exist in that.
I watched the first 2 episodes and liked it a lot, and also felt this healthy type of because I have been writing and always been fantasizing about doing my basketball show.
Yeah.
I wrote this thing called Adult Men's League, which I'm still working on with something.
Yeah.
But originally it was that, and it was more focused on this rec league.
Yeah.
And now it's a bit more broad. But there's something about watching people do stuff that's, I'm sure you could relate to this, but as a comedian, I am so, in a political word, I'll use eclectic, that I don't run into too many people doing what I do.
Yes. Yeah.
So my tool bag doesn't have the most, of course I'm talking about my ex-wife. I don't have that many tools to deal with emotionally.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there's I've said this on this podcast before, but there's really 8 jokes in the world, and there's just different ways of doing it. But I see somebody doing a basketball show, and then I'm like, fuck, I can never do a basketball show. And then I watched it, and it's the only similarity is you guys are playing it's a completely different show.
Of course.
But there was a part of me that I'm being honest, and it wasn't hold for sound. Or the sign from the fire truck to say, don't admit this. But there was a part of me where I saw that before it came out, when you first posted it, and it's like, fuck, Rory's doing a basketball show. And Rory's a little eclectic, and it's going to be my thing.
I know.
But also, that's not a logical thing. That's just this little shitty part inside of me that is like, I don't want people, we only have so many ideas.
I know, yeah.
But I watched it, and I also think that I'm not it doesn't matter. I don't want to overcompensate. But it was really, really good. And
thank you.
And also, I liked that I enjoyed watching it and didn't feel like, I don't know what that means or what the point is that I'm making. But confession, I saw you doing something who no one would say you and I are alike comedians, but you go far enough away. Oh, Rory's like Rick or Rick's like Rory because we do weird stuff on stage.
Exactly, yeah. That very broad comparison. Yeah.
Like comparing any basketball player with each other because they both shoot threes.
Exactly. Yeah.
But man, and it looks great, and also it's interesting because it's just on Comedy Central YouTube. Yeah. Which on one hand is cool because it's easy to get things on Comedy Central. Downloading their app, it's always a fucking pain in the ass, and I have to go out of my way to watch. This is easy to watch. You just YouTube basketball show Robbie, and again go to the link.
Yeah.
But also, how do you feel about the fact that it didn't go on Comedy Central?
I feel originally I thought they would have put this on TV in like January.
When did you finish it?
So we finished shooting in June of last year, and we turned in the final episodes in September. And I was really hopeful that they would premiere it in January with Awkwafina's new show. And I thought, oh, maybe it'll pair well with that show. And then we didn't get the premiere date. And so then I was like, oh, maybe I guess it's going to go out in the summer. But Comedy Central started.
You can come on through.
Oh, yeah,
Pardon us. Thank you.
Sorry.
Check out Take Your Shoes Off podcast. We'll put your Instagram handle up. There's a great example of me not needing to do the bits and just letting you go with the flow. Where now I'm like, listen, I'm a human, man.
I kind of thought it would. When I realized it wasn't going to be on TV, Comedy Central was also rebranding to become more of an unscripted place. So that's what they're currently doing. So it got to a point where our show was just there with no heads up on when it was going to come out or anything. So
It went up and they said, hey, it's up now?
no, they said we think we're going to launch it and do one premiere, one episode on TV, and then the very next day, all the episodes on YouTube. And it really felt like, oh, maybe this stuff is just getting dumped out, which could or could not be the truth. But I will say, if my show was on Comedy Central right now and people had to wait to watch each episode each week, I don't think we would have the same viewership. I think this show is so easily digestible that people just want to digest it, and they get through it very quickly. And so I think that's a good thing. I like people having access to it on their own time and their own terms. I wish we would have known this is how it would end up, because I think we would have left more jokes in.
Why? Why more jokes for YouTube than Comedy Central television?
Well, just timing. Just because if it was on Comedy Central, the episode's got to be 21 minutes, 30 seconds.
Oh, you're saying you would have, the episodes would have had just been longer.
Yeah, I would have left some jokes in that I really, truly loved, but we cut for time. And then also some content, knowing that it's going to be on YouTube. I don't think anything that we wrote or wanted to do was dirty, but if I would have known in advance that we were going to be like more of a streaming show, I think that kind of takes the boundaries away a little bit. It backs them up a little bit, at least.
Yeah, it also is a different format with, you still, leave questions at the end, but the idea of there's a certain type of thing that streaming shows that are meant to be binged are where even though they end, there's an ending to the show, they're almost like continual act breaks as opposed to just resolutions. But your show it isn't episodic. Your show does have a linear story to it, and it does play for the way it came out.
It has some bigger arches of like something that's more serialized and lives sort of in an episodic world. It's best if you watch them in order.
Does that affect your deal was already done? Does that affect pay at all? Where it comes out?
It was already
right.
Everything was already in place. I think, unfortunately, I feel bad for the writers and the directors, because when that stuff airs on TV, there's more money to be made for them.
Residuals, you're
Residuals,
talking.
and I feel bad that's that the director. We had 3 directors: Payman Benz, Anu Valia, and Scott Moran. I feel bad that they won't get that, and I feel bad that our writers, all who had one script on the season.
How many writers were there? 6?
I think we had 6. I think 6. Yeah, I think 6.
And then you created the show with one other person.
With Scott Moran, Anthony King. Yeah.
Oh, the 3 of you?
Yeah.
Did you write your own individual script, or just the pilot that the 3 of you did?
Just me and Anthony wrote the pilot.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other scripts you weren't. I mean, obviously you were a creator on, but
yeah, creator. But I would just pop in and give notes and.
Why was that? Why was that the choice you made as opposed to wanting to control it more?
I think at this stage in my career, I think I'd rather just focus on what I know how to do and what I'm good at, and slowly learn to do the other things. So I don't think that I'm great in a writer's room. I think I'm good to pop into a writer's room. I think I can throw some jokes out. I think I'm maybe a better punch-up person. But at this stage in my career, I just don't have enough experience or desire, really, to be in a writer's room writing scripts. I hope to get there, because it's kind of crazy that I'm not doing that.
When I was on Undateable, you were on another Bill Lawrence show, literally a soundstage next to us at Warner Brothers, ground floor.
Yep.
And you were one of the stars of the show, but you were also the only actor on the show that was also in the writer's room as a staff writer. Is that correct?
Renee Goubet was also.
Oh, Renee was too,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Shout out to Renee. We'll put his Instagram handle up here.
Yeah, he wrote the full season. I was just in there pre-production.
Now, how were you credited? Were you credited as a staff writer the whole time?
No, I got paid to be in there for, I think, the 3 or 4 weeks before we started production.
How did you get that gig? Did you ask for it? Did Bill ask you?
Yeah, I asked if I could do it. I said I'd like to go in there. I'd like to see what a writer's room is and how it operates. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all those writers. I thought everybody was great. But I wasn't going to have a script. I was throwing out jokes, and I was like, oh, I'm spending a lot of time in here, and this is just not what I do right now. So,
did you feel yourself being separating yourself from the show when you were in the writers' room, of being able to pitch equally for everybody?
Yeah, because I knew that was a thing, and I'm just not like that. I don't mind if someone pitches something that's against my character. I'm like, I don't care. What
do you mean against your character?
Not against it, but I mean, if they're like, oh, let's move that joke from Rory's character to so, I'm like, yeah, great. I really don't care. Either way, I'm on the show. I'm having fun. I can't believe I have this job.
Was that your first big job?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
me
I
too.
think I was like, yeah, I'm happy to be doing this, and I think in any sort of group setting, I definitely want people to know that I am a team player. I miss team sports so much, but I am all about the team. I'm all about doing what is expected of me to contribute to the team. I've never once cared about being labeled as like a superstar, and I'm not anyways, but I don't aim for that because I don't really care about it. I love the team celebrating as a team.
Right.
I just love that.
I connect to that strongly. That's when I first had friends, was through basketball, and the confidence I got, and other people scoring means I get to win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Your comedy, your style also, the one that I could relate to, but is very it's very collaborative in nature. Like doing bits with somebody else on stage and wanting for that. And you coming over here, you have a daughter, you didn't want to leave the house. I mean, this, even though it's a bit, when you change out of your ridiculous mask, you're still in your car and you put in another one. Like,
yes.
There is truth to all of this, but you want to play.
Yeah.
And there's a certain type of person, it's not better or worse. Like we talked about, D'Elia is great. One of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, at just being up there by himself and doing his thing. I believe I shine and believe you shine. Not that we can't be by ourselves, but
sure, yeah.
Working off other people. And there is a selflessness to that is, I think, is built into the reason we feel that way is because we've been rewarded with it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And knowing that I win when you score isn't that I am necessarily selfless. It's just the way I've been conditioned.
Yeah.
That this is about the game.
Yes.
Yeah. Just an interesting thing I've never really thought about that way. That there's oddly something that lets me remove my selfishness, which does exist, when I get to work with other people. I get to not think about myself in only a good way, because then I get to be more present. When I'm talking to a camera, I'm not present. I'm talking to a fucking camera.
Right,
I'm pretending. And that's
right.
not acting to me. There's something different, fake about it.
I've told people that, because I did long-form improv when I started doing stand-up. I was kind of doing both at the same time. And I've told people doing a great improv show with your group and afterwards is so much more fun than after a stand-up show where you just absolutely destroyed. Because after you destroy, you can only celebrate with yourself. And if you talk about it too much and you recap it too much, which I believe is healthy, you sound narcissistic and psychotic. But in your improv group, everybody is recapping and celebrating and high-fiving, and so it just kind of, it's more of a celebration, like someone just scored a goal.
Yeah.
Whereas stand-up is like, oh, I just won the tennis tournament.
Yeah, that shared stakes, that camaraderie. I feel that way. One of my favorite, I love going to Vegas. Shout out to Las Vegas. We'll put their Instagram handle up here because it's just a playful place for me, and I love to gamble.
Yeah.
Blackjack is my favorite thing to do in Vegas. And the past few times I've gone, especially when I go with Brent Morin, Brent doesn't know anything about things.
Why doesn't Brent get his Instagram handle?
It's up there. We'll even show the thumbnail of last week's episode. Brent, admittingly, and one of his funniest things is the lack of ego he has in certain places where he could be like, I don't know, just do this for me. Brent doesn't know numbers. I know. I mean, it's objective. Blackjack.
Yes.
I know. It's just there's right and there's wrong. Period.
Yes.
And when it's double deck, I could count cards a bit.
Yeah.
So Brent gives me the money, and we're playing, and now we get to play in like high stakes rooms because we're pooled, especially if we have a few people involved.
Yeah.
We're sitting next to your friend in blackjack. You want them to win, and you care, but like also, especially if my hand has a lot of money and theirs don't.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's awesome, but give me my cards.
Yes. Yeah.
There's something about when we all are in the same hand together, that fucking that table feel that you get when the dealer busts.
Yeah.
Is every hand before they bust.
Yes.
And it's just so fucking exciting. There's something about like, listen, I care about your comedy, I care about your money, but I cannot tell you I care about it more than mine.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So when you're there together doing an improv thing or sharing your money or playing basketball, and the goal isn't to score the most points, the goal is to win a championship.
Yeah.
There's something about it that brings out the best in that type of person.
Well, that's what I love about craps. That's why craps is my main game, because it just feels like we're all winning at the same time, and then it all ends for everybody at the same time. But it like, it's not like anybody just dropping out like, now you're out because you lost. It's literally everybody the whole time going, yeah, as long as no one throws a 7, we're all celebrating, and I love it.
So that's against the dealer or the house, and in sports it's against the other team. But with comedy, and those are very competitive in nature.
Yeah.
Especially a sports one. But for comedy, is there some type of competition there? Because you and John Doerr do things together, or at least you used to a lot.
Yeah.
And I love John, by the way. I want to cut to a quick clip of something that he and I did at Montreal Just for Laughs.
You guys are in for a real treat. Please put your hands together for Ron Gladish. All right.
Thank you. It's Rick Glassman. That is my mistake.
We are back. If you like that, folks, we're going to put up a full-length clip. Check it out.
So when you go on Conan with him, it's you two together. Is there something in the mind that is competitive where you're going to either prove somebody from your past wrong or show the audience how great you are or fill in the blank?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think anytime I've gone on there with John, I've always been like, all right, I'm just going to follow his lead.
He knows that? He's the point person?
I don't know if he knows that. I just have fallen into that where I'm like, all right, whatever we're doing, I'm just going to follow John's lead and try to fill in where I should fill in and step up when I think I should step up. But yeah, I think the only part of that is maybe wanting people in my family or people in my past to see a thing, not only to think it's funny, but to be like, oh, look at that, Rory. That's who Rory kind of was growing up, and now he's doing it professionally. I don't know that... Actually, I do know. I was about to say I don't know that ever goes away, but I truly in my heart think that might be starting to fade for me at 39 years old. And I think I'm now no longer motivated by that. Now I'm genuinely motivated by at least in stand-up, I'm motivated by what more can I say? What do I want to talk about? Mm-hmm. What more do I want to reveal about myself? Which feels so good. And then I think in the world of acting, I'm sure you feel the same way too, but acting, like, yes, there's a lot I want to do and learn in acting and writing, but you and I both know there isn't so much control in that over the choices we make. If someone calls you right now and says they want to cast you in this thing for 10 years.
I'm in.
Exactly. And someone goes, and it's okay. It's an okay project. It's like, yeah, I'll do it. I want to try that stuff. I want to do that
Having
stuff.
podcasts or having stand-up comedy does make that easier.
Yeah.
Because if I were on a show and that's the only creative outlet I had, it would, I mean, I'm still doing it because you need to make a living, and that's the dream. But there is something that is, it's easier to compartmentalize. Like, here's my job that I want to shine it, and I'm going to work it, and I'm going to put whatever I can into it.
Yeah.
But that isn't my identity.
Yeah. And
that's an important differentiation that I struggled with the first year and a half of Undateable.
Yeah.
But being able to just know that we come out here having a dream, and then relatively speaking, we're doing our dream. We're making a living from doing this.
Yeah.
Sometimes earlier for me, I forgot that a dream and a job aren't mutually exclusive, and you do still have to it's like, well, this isn't what I'm best at, and this isn't what it's like, doesn't matter, dude.
Right.
Go in and get your fucking rebounds, guy.
Yes.
So,
actually, to reword what I was saying, I think in the world of stand-up, no matter how much I get to do, and no matter if the stages get bigger or the crowds get bigger or whatever, I think I've reached a point where I'm no longer as motivated to make sure, all the people that I grew up with see me do this. But I will say that is still satisfying in the world of like acting and stuff, not in this show-offy kind of way, which at one point it was for sure that. But
what
now,
do you mean? Like, look at me, I'm on TV?
Originally, yeah, I was definitely in that headspace for sure. But now I'm in this headspace of kind of wanting to feel like, hey, I know that this isn't everyone's goal, but I'd like to think that in some ways, maybe I have some sort of representation of like, hey, this is who I was and now I'm doing it. And instead of me being happy that I'm doing it, it feels good to know that maybe we're all proud that someone from maybe my hometown, if we want to get specific, is like, oh, someone from our hometown is doing this thing. Instead of me being selfishly like, I want you to look at me, I succeeded. Now it's almost like, hey, I want us to feel like we as a place and people, we succeeded because I came from here and now this is where it took me.
Like for me, coming from Northeast Ohio and being so proud that not only in my community, but I would argue in the country, we have one of the greatest drugstores that exists. We'll be right back. If you're looking for just the right flooring, you need choices. And at Marshall Carpet One, you'll certainly find them.
And we're back, folks.
Rory, do you think there's something to the fact that now that you have your own family, that you maybe don't need that outside validation from other family in a way, like you have your core?
I think so, maybe a little bit. I think that it changes my focus, where my focus is so specific now on my daughter that I still push hard and want to succeed at stand-up and acting. But there's an element of that, I'm motivated to do that because I want her to see, hey, look, this is what I wanted to do since I was a kid. And here I am doing it. And a lot of people, and you know this too, because people say this to you, I'm almost certain. A lot of people go, oh my God, that's so crazy that you did that you're doing it. And you and I both are like, yes, it is crazy, but we're so in it that we don't see it as crazy or impossible. We literally just see it as, yeah, what's next? How can I sustain it? Because I want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I want her to see, like, hey, whatever you think as a kid you might be interested in and you want to do, you know, I'm a firm believer that hard work and just being a good person, I think a lot of things you can achieve them.
You heard it here first. Whether you're somebody's daughter or I think it's actually specific to if you're a daughter. Hard work could do something, as long as you got the gumption. Am I saying it right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Rory, where could people find you?
They can find me. I'm always parked right here outside of Rick's place. Instagram at Rory Scovel, Twitter at Rory Scovel, website roryscovel.com. I'm starting to post a lot of new and old stand-up clips to my YouTube page, which you can link to and find.
I'll have all of that in the description.
Yeah, so check it out.
Rory, thank you so much for
Thanks,
literally driving up.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about it. It's in the description, but go check out Robbie. You're already on YouTube. At least watch the first episode. I will believe that you would be interested in watching more, but give it a shot. It's really good. And to the beginning, when I first set it up, it's really, 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 really cool. And I don't know if people who aren't in the business could appreciate it the same way, to watch a friend get something out there. It's just, there's so many steps. And even with, and I don't mean to be backtracking, but I want to make sure I was clear when I said that, when I saw you doing a basketball thing, It wasn't about anything other than, could I still do basketball stuff? Which is a ridiculous thought.
Yeah.
But just, it's just fucking, it's not obviously, but it's seemingly impossible.
Yeah.
And you got something out and it's good and it's cool and it's your voice. And then you had this idea to showcase Georgia or the South a certain way, and you were able to execute it. And I'm just really proud of you and happy for that. So
Thanks,
I
man.
really want people, as a favor to me even, check out the first episode at least. You will like it. And I guess just take the thing and put it on the ground, and that'll be it, man. Much love, Rory.
This is how I exit everything.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah.